Hello, and welcome back to Smiley's. Tonight we are discussing the last and final chapter of Fall of Light, chapter 26. This is going to be a lengthy episode. I am joined by Mora. Hello, Mora.
Hi Lee, how are you?
Quite good. This is a lengthy chapter, let's put it like that. So, because this is me summarizing it, unfortunately, we're gonna take our sweet time going through it because I feel the last three chapters or so, Full of Light, are very important to understanding the novel as a whole, and I'm in absolutely no hurry, so we're going to break this up into parts. We have no guarantee as to how long each part is going to be. We're aiming for 90 minutes, so that could mean we're done in one part, which is not going to happen, or like 5. We'll figure it out as we go along. So, unless anyone has any objections, we're going to begin.
Yes, let's go.
So, scene 1, then Draconus says, I can make it right. Yeah. So, when the battle begins, historian Herat abandons his eyrie atop the tower roof and makes his way through the empty, barren citadel, at last reaching the basement wherein dwell failed sculptures of the past, including the Savaging of the Hound from chapter 10, if you remember that. He makes for the tapestries, which are not listed, bearing an index number and a short description, because we are before the Dewey Decimal System, evidently. And he pulls the one he sticks down to the floor and rolls it out. He can't quite remember the details of when he last found it some 30 years ago, but that's not relevant. To him, neither is the tag, but to us, it's quite fascinating. The tag reads, The Battle of the Storm in the Founding Age. And then Rise asks, what storm, what battle, what age of founding? And I'm here to answer that question. So, we know of a handful of ages throughout Thais history, right? We know of the Age of Gifts, which was mentioned by Arathan in Court of Darkness, as the time of the first Thais. Now, there are a handful of others, including this one, and later on, Silgas will go on to say that the birth of the Thais was iron. Basically, what I'm getting at is there are a lot of different ages within the Thais, and it is a very good question as to which exactly was the actual first iteration of the Thais, because we have at least like 4 different myths as to how they came about, right? We have the tapestry they find in chapter 15 of Forge of Darkness with Emerald and Rise. It's like, oh yeah, we ate the dragons, and then the assassin came along and spanked us, but that wasn't like the actual myth we used. We had a different one. And then you have Stilkas saying that the Valley of Tarns was their legendary first camp, then the Age of Gifts, then Stilkas saying it's like iron was our legendary like birth cry or whatever. Big question. We're gonna get into this a bit more in a moment. But what I want to talk about furthermore is the dragon, which Draconus is purported to have killed, who is mentioned in chapter 17 of this book, by the name of Habalt Galanus in the last assembling, wherein Narad said, like, Draconus killing this dragon basically precipitated all of this. Now, it's an open question of what all of this means. I don't know, but I am somewhat arbitrarily treating the death of Habalt Galanus as like year 0. Okay, here's where we begin, because he needed darkness indivisible in order to create, because that's part of his aspect, so he captures his aspect, empowers himself, and then gives birth to the Thais and gives them darkness and whatnot. That could have been later. He could have made the Thais before, tried something different, and this is just another thing that he tried, and maybe failed, and then ended up in like a storm like this. I don't know. That's kind of the funny thing about Fall of Light. We have no idea. Anyhow, as I was saying, this is gonna we're gonna get into the weeds today. So, the tapestry, as the note suggests, depicts the Battle of the Storm, an ancient and forgotten age, wherein 2 rival armies are clashing, with scores of flying dragons punctuating the landscape. From the commander of one army, something like a stain marred the weave. Herat, at first, believing it to be naught but a fault in the weaving, or a mold, or a torch, finally realizes it to be a figure wreathed in darkness that is none other than Draconus. Now, Emerald speaks behind him, having tracked Rise down to the basement, because, of course she has, and Rise rather quizzically says that there is honor and there is stupidity. Now, in effect, he realizes that the course of Draconus' life parallels all too well the many civilizations of the Dice, and he questions, and this is not going to be the first time I go with this, what willful idiocy obtains. Emerald walks beside him, and he elaborates. Draconus has done all of this before. Who was the woman beside him many generations ago that has now vanished from all memory? And that also begs the question, and again, this is not going to be the only time I ask this question today, what changed this time around? How come, this time around, we end up with something different. Yes, we have the Sundering, which is different, presumably, but we don't have dragons descending into Draconus to burn it to the ground, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We have something along those lines, with Tiam descending and then being killed, but she was slain. They didn't get destroyed. They were still alive. They didn't have a reset, so something changed. We're gonna see part of what changed later in the chapter, probably another part, but it's still an open question that I want everyone to ponder as we go through. So, the priestess is still somewhat disbelieving, but Rise is certain they have failed. Draconus rides to Tarns, and he's not going to retrieve his Houseblades. He's going to do battle with them. Can't back down now, and it's in doubt if he ever could. Which, yeah, fair enough. Emerald's attempts to dissuade Rise fail, as he claims that failure finds myriad details, but they all share one thing: a face in the mirror. Damn. They failed, yes, but quite likely that Draconus did as well. His ways of love, Rise claims, invariably turn into ways of war. Call him a fool if you must, and we have, but spare the man a moment of pity. Now, it's difficult to recount all the myriad instances of Draconus' past spattered throughout Carganos, and I'm hoping more I remember something that I don't. At a glance, I could mention his knowledge of the High King, which is in chapter 11 of FOD, the hounds that once savaged him in FOL 18, Narad's vision about Habal Class, which I already mentioned in FOL 17, and basically all of the last 3 chapters. Now, we are not unique as a podcast, nor is this the first time, and definitely not the last, that we declare that this book is sad. But I want you to consider the magnitude and the frequency of Draconus' failures, and perhaps as a teaser for Wolf and Shadow, contrast it with the magnitude and frequency of Calvor's failures.
Nice.
Because how can you have a book whose central theme is love and not have the character who declares that he can never love enough? But more on that in the next book, when and if it comes out. Anyway.
No, if it's coming out.
Yeah, it's when it comes out. Soon, hopefully. So, Emerald dismisses Rise's concerns. Draconus was to be their only sacrifice, and they did what they did out of altruism for the realm. They may have failed, yes, but the tapestry is bollocks. Now, Rise doesn't deign to respond, and instead, in his mind's eye, converses with Draconus. He questions his own self. How many thousands of years and how many gifts have passed to bring Draconus here? How many failures, how many deaths can love die? If you recall, Grison going, I didn't know love could die so many deaths. Yeah. Now, maybe, the failure lies with the Azathani. There are too few of them, and they're too old, and they're too incapable of keeping secrets from one another. Right? Maybe. The failure lies with Draconus himself. It's written deep in his bones and his blood, in his tradition of gift-giving, without expecting anything in return. Draconus has far too few friends in the Citadel, and among them, only Anomander could match him, with him, in this context, being the consort, a scion of House Dragons, not the Azathani that's aspected to darkness that Rise knows him to be. Though Rise does wonder if Anomander has similar suspicions. Here, it bears mentioning that Rise is far from the only person calling out Draconus for giving too many gifts to people, and not thinking of the consequences. His exes have done that a lot of times. Hood, I think, has done the same. Maybe Gothos. So add Rise to that tally of people calling Draconus out for giving too many gifts without thinking what he's actually trying to do. Since we're on the topic, I would also like to mention that when his ex calls him out, when Olar talks to him in Chapter 11, Forge of Darkness, she tells him that he was always one for planning, even though his plans always failed, and she asks him if he will seek his own death, and he replies, no, because I will die many deaths. And she's like, have you seen them? And he says, I don't need to. And I bring this up, both because that's an allegory for Draconus' love, and also because, again, ask yourself as we go through the chapter, what changed? What didn't happen in this permutation that led to Draconus not failing? Now, in his mind's eye, Rise can almost see the meeting between Draconus and Anomander, and wonders how the encounter between them would play out. Terse, no doubt, with a meeting of gazes, a recognition of intentions, and at last a simple nod, like bros. He considers, if in his role as historian, he ought to write of this encounter, and so begins his narration of that fateful encounter. Right? Right. I am minded here of Kadaspala's monologue, of course. This is not going to be the first time I bring him up. Yeah. Don't worry about it. All that the historian would not say keeps him mute. The entire scene from here on takes place within Rise's head, and the only sounds he makes are wordless screams at the very end. It's, we're going to talk about this later, hopefully in this part, but I don't have high hopes, about how Kilaris views this scene versus how Rise views it. I think Mora brought it up the first time. there is something very deliberate in first framing this by the perspective of the historian, of how the historian would see it. We'll get into the details in a moment, due to how formal Draconus is, and how terse Salamander is and whatnot, and conversely how Kilaras views everything through his lens. I don't think we are supposed to give primacy to any one of the two. If I had to pick one as being the official version, it would be Kilaras, but that's not the point here. The point is to highlight the different aspects of the characters of both Salamander and Draconus, both how they're viewed by posterity and how they're viewed by their own people. Okay? I bring this up because there are going to be discrepancies, so don't lose your mind about them. It's fine. So, Maura, if you want to add something, please interrupt me.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sure. So the scene he takes to describing is one of sleet, hinting at a coming snowstorm, and a more metaphorical storm. Salamander turns away in the face of sorcery, and Rise himself is tempted to leave the scene, but he returns yet again to Draconus, dismounting from a lathered horse trailed by Kilaras. He elevates Kilaras in his mind's eye to the lone witness bound in threads. No one else has the audacity or temerity to approach the two men to witness. The captain's name will inevitably be forgotten, with a role beneath mention. Just like the army's about to clash and all the soldiers in the army, he is but a footnote in history, or maybe a man deserving of a couple lines in an epic poem. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the pod or in an individual conversation with Hadamora, but Kilaras is actually mentioned twice in the Book of the Fallen by Sandalath as the commander of the Andi forces in a war, in the civil war against the Leosan after they become Soldigan. So you have, presumably, this is during the Sundering, you have Kilaras commanding the Andi forces and simultaneously being quasi in command of the Sheikh, who have held against the Leosan, and so as to ensure the escape of the Andi into the world, right? And to ensure that the Leosan don't escape and get out past Lightfall and into Draconus. So I suspect we may not even get that in Welcome Shadow, but nevertheless, point is, he is at least an honorable mention in the Book of the Fallen. It counts for something. Nonetheless, Kilaras is our witness to the scene, to the meeting between these two friends. Future historians won't recall this detail, of course. They will see the grand strokes of a battle for a woman's affection, of the conflict between consort and son, so what value motivations. And yet, Rise knows enough to be certain that they won't bring any of this up. Not here, and not now. They're friends, after all. As mentioned, Draconus falls back upon formality in this meeting. Can you quote me a line or two, perhaps? Are you able?
From where?
Generally, how he refers to Anamander, Lord Anamander.
In this, the first scene.
Milord, etc.
Yeah, Milord, Lord Draconus, or that's Lord Anamander. And it's a very formal language, right? I don't think we've seen Draconus talk like this.
Yeah.
The
only time we ever see him talk like this is when he refers to Igor Zathanai.
Mm-hmm.
When he speaks like Erastus to Olar in a formal sense, because he has two different modes of how he talks to people like Olar and Kilnadaros. He speaks very formally to Olar in making like a deal. She's like, if you come to my fires, we will do battle until but one of us survives, And they come to my fires, and she comes like, you see his mother in his eyes. Yeah, that must hurt. Yeah.
And they sit and chat. Yeah. I didn't mean to be cruel.
Yeah.
I know.
With Erastus, it's kind of the same thing. Here, and I think that's why Rise chooses this mode, because he understands now Draconus is Athenai, so he ascribes to him the same motivations. Partly missing a few things about Draconus, but also introducing a few more that Kilaras can't say, or doesn't know about. Because Kilaras doesn't actually know Draconus is Athenai, right? So, all of this to say, let's cross-reference later after we're done with both scenes, which probably another part, and see the differences. But for now on, very formal, very cold almost, Draconus, compared to a more stoic, more composed, perhaps, Anamander. So, Draconus then falls back upon formality. Something has changed, after all, and for all that Anamander does away with the whole charade of privilege, he is not in the mood to argue semantics. Both men are aware that this is a portentous moment, befitting, perhaps, of formality, for posterity. Draconus mentions his houseplates have been positioned upon the eastern flank, with Ivas being hungry for war. Anamander, as of yet oblivious to Draconus' disposition, concurs, claiming that they will present the most formidable fist, with the half space between flank and center being held by Silkas at the helm of Anamander's houseblades. Draconus then turns to view the west flank, where Foment stirs among the highborn and his face tightens. He turns back to Anamander and informs him that Silkas arrived to him as this day's commander. Anamander is tipped off at something in Draconus' words, but nonetheless replies that he has drawn his sword and he has taken his rightful place. Draconus therefore replies, It follows that he must take his own. Reload, of course.
Milord.
Reload. Yeah. So Rise then pulls away from the two men and gives us a bird's eye view instead. The western flank dissolves as the highborn abandon the flank, marching away in mock fury, leaving Draconus to his devices. We've seen this before from Henarald, right? This is not new, but the events are not new, the presentation is new, and it's what's important, which is why we see this scene in three different ways. Each one has different tonal undertones and very different purpose, right? Henarald speaks of the anguish of soldiers, of no choice, of honor, of virtue. Rise speaks of his own failure and Draconus' failure. Generally, failure on this sordid day. And then Kilaris gives you a more boots on the ground vibe of what the fuck am I to do? But we'll get to that eventually. So, Rise then looks away from the tapestry entire, purveying the room he's in, and in his mind's eye, the room comes alive with the clamor of battle, as each statue of past leaders, soldiers, even figures of state, is wakened by his imagination as the killing begins to commence. He takes a sharp breath, stilling the statues. Rise then considers the possibility that perhaps, Light's sorcery would overcome them all, leaving the battlefield as a charnel house. I have a quick historical note because I didn't know this. A charnel house is a vault for the deposition of human skeletal remains. They are often near churches of graveyards, and their purpose is to make room for further bodies. It is also commonly used as a metaphor for a place of death and destruction. It's not like an ossuary, which is like a place, like a little box where you put them in neat little rows. It's much more crude than that. It's basically a big hole in the ground where they stuff bones to make room for more bodies. So, fitting. Quite fitting.
I don't know why I thought that was like a slaughterhouse sort of.
Yeah.
Maybe by context. Yeah. By context.
I think that's more fair. If I didn't look this up, I think I'd think the same, yeah. So, but the fact that, Leosan would just destroy everything, Rise considers would be rather anticlimactic. No story of Impert being told in the unwanted and mindless carnage of all-devouring sorcery. So, no sorcery. It shall be negated, and so it falls to swords and shields, failure and triumph, and so on and so forth. Now, here, recall, if you will, in the very, very beginning of the book, Galan's request of you to see something enticing in the grim camaraderie of failed men and women. Galan calls back his prelude a lot in this chapter. I'm not going to bring it up every time, but it would do good to read it again. So, leave all that to the side for the moment, and return us to Anamander and Draconus. Henarald has unleashed his sorcery. Cedarpool and Endus have held him off. Cheers and celebrations. Anamander despises sorcery. This is not the first time. He bitched about it last time when he was with Ivus in Dracon's Keep, and wonders if sorcery plans to make a mockery of battle. Recall, again, Henarald from last chapter, I'm going to quote him a lot, declaring that even when we all agree it's insane, it's still insane. Draconus glances at Kilaris and walks to Anamander to preview the battlefield, before asking the First Son if he plans to deny Draconus. Anamander is confused. To what end does Draconus seek leave? And the Lord replies that he will have his houseblades, whether or not Anamander orders him to withdraw. Ivus has been taken by the fever of battle, and it is the First Son's belief that withdrawal would break his heart. And so he asks Draconus a most fateful question. How fares Mother Dark? Draconus then flinches.
How should I know?
Yeah?
Yeah. How should I know, is what you say.
Yeah, pretty much. She refuses his presence, and knows his mind and intentions. Perhaps what lies between them is fatally wounded, though Anamander wouldn't have it so. Moments pass, where the sky shifts, and a strange, exhausted silence takes hold, and Draconus declares that he can, and he shall, make it right. Anamander must name this courage, that has overcome Draconus, love, for it can be no other.
Yeah.
Here, I would like to remind everybody that Silcast terms this weakness rather than courage, to which Draconus replies that those without love also lack courage. This is an interesting contrast between the two brothers to keep note of going forward into the future, especially in the future parts when we're going to get into the fates of the two brothers, what happens to them, but more on that later. For right now, this is probably the scene that has the biggest divergence between how Rise tells it, and how Henarald tells it, and how Kilaris tells it. And that's very much deliberate. In Rise's eyes, Draconus does all of this, everything that he does, out of an obligation towards his love, and because of his love, right? In Rise's eye, his entire motivation just hinges on love, because he cannot see the bigger picture. He cannot see everything else has transpired in the past. He cannot understand the extent, even though he has suspicions, right? He can see it, it's in front of him, but he hasn't yet pieced everything together, that there's a much bigger threat at play here. So he extrapolates that, of course, he must be talking about love, right? Matter's talking about love, Draconus talking about love, and so on. In Kilaris' version, they're talking about swords, but we'll get there when we get there. I also think it's very important that this is how he opens. That this is how this chapter opens, with Rise talking about Draconus' love, rather than being, okay, well, we're going to go into the press, going to see everybody kill each other, and then, oh, by the way, love exists. No, this is very deliberate in how it's written. So, shall we continue?
Did you finish part 1?
No. Not by... I'm
the
actually
scene
almost
one?
done.
Yeah.
Not very much to go through. So, Anamander then yields command of the flank to Draconus, and the latter declares that they shall not yield, yet wonders if she will see that. Anamander makes no reply. Here, I do have to echo Rise Herat's assertion from earlier. You understand nothing at all, do you? So, Draconus also brings up the matter of Silka's ruin, who led him into believing Anamander had commandeered his Houseblades, though he chose to believe otherwise. Any further inquiry is shut down by Anamander with a tone of peculiar finality. Draconus turns, mounts his horse, and rides for the left flank to take command. This is also a curious difference between how Rise tells it and how Draconus tells it, but nonetheless, I'm not entirely sure how to interpret this passage within Rise's paradigm. Draconus presses the matter in a manner indicative that he's genuinely pissed at Silgas, which, yeah, fair enough. I would assume Rise is somewhat projecting his guilt onto Draconus and how he feels about Silgas. Like, oh, he betrayed me, so he must be mad at him. In Kilaris' version, there's a much more defeatist tone of, oh, well, it happened, so I guess I gotta plan for the future. The wording used by Herat, to me, indicates desperation on Draconus' behalf. He doesn't speak of Silgas like, oh, he's a traitor and he is trying to screw me over personally. He is a symptom of the greater whole, and I just hope that Mother Dark understands that I'm not to blame for this. That I didn't choose this, right? And again, I think this is indicative of how Herat will view this. That's very interesting, because at the very least, Herat has some measure of self-awareness and self-respect, and actually has to feel bad about things. Anyhow, what Draconus seeks to do here, perhaps, is dissuade the battle from happening entirely by informing Anamander of Silgas' deception in a last-ditch effort to prevent his houseblades from participating and dying. Perhaps his game is even deeper than that, and Anamander's presence at the battlefield of Tarns compromises his plan to break the cycle, as it were. Because, as we'll see later, Kaladin approaches Anamander like, I can nuke them if you want. If you want me to, I can just kill them all, you know? And I wonder how many other Thais have said yes to that proposition in the past. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe he's just simply mad at Silgas. Maybe the curtains are just blue. Who knows? Rise blinks to clear the scene from his mind, and the battle around him resumes in full force, with the multitude of statues caught in their own war. The Hust fall in their inability to yield, dying for the civilization that has cast them out. Ivus falls along with most of the dragon's houseblades. Silgas weeps as he kills anyone who would draw near. Anamander stands, painted in blood, striding from the field to try the standard. Draconus? Why, he is nowhere to be found, and his body will never be recovered. It's no easy thing to kill an Azathanai. The standard falls, and along with it rises self-condemnation. The battle is done, all done, like Henarald said, and he has to hold his hand to his face to keep from seeing the consequence of his own actions. He stumbles, he falls, battered and bruised, bleeding, screaming, until the entire chamber echoes his cries, all in the name of one man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. So, what did you think of the chapter? When you first read it, especially.
Sorry?
What did you think of the chapter, more generally? Or the scene, rather? Don't get too ahead of ourselves.
No, it's fitting. Okay, my first time, I did not like this, because by now I know that there's no big battle coming. I was quite disappointed by this time. And overall, I felt that the ending was like so weird, and I was not happy. But yeah, I mean, that's not what this book is trying to do, right? So,
I do recall we talked to Erickson about this when we had him on the pod. But he also mentioned, like, I think to AP, that when he got here, when he was first writing the book, his mind was like, I'm not writing another fucking battle. Okay?
Yeah,
so,
he was too tired.
We asked him.
No, regardless of that, it's still like, a solid ending to a book. So.
See, I think your big battle is chapter 1. I think the big battle, if you're looking for one, the big battle that would be fitting here is in chapter 1, with the Wardens versus the Legion, where you have your boots on the ground doing the thematic heavy lifting. And it is referenced consistently in this chapter, like Renar thinks back to that battle, to when even Galan calls it out in the end. The very end, the epilogue, has mention of that. That is your big final battle. Your climactic final battle is in chapter 1. This is elaboration. This is all theme. This is foretold. This is pretty much fated to happen at this point. So the manner in which he approaches it, rather than going through, okay, well, the Huss are all gonna fucking die, and I'm just gonna have to show them dying without actually doing anything, and then I'm gonna have like separated 1v1s and like Cellcast kills Manan, and none of that. Give them a bird's eye view. Talk to them about motivations, about what happened, about what they think, what they dream. That's the important bit. You already got that from the soldier's perspective in chapter 1 with Haverhill, right? Who was killing his love again and again. You got that with someone like Sharinus, who was regretful for leaving Gagamandra. You have that with Narad and Lahanis and Glyph, who are sobbing because before the battle they lost everyone. You don't need to see that again. What you do need is to see how love morphs this battlefield. How even in the face of extreme adversity, love triumphs. And how that is going to be seen in posterity. How Rise would talk about it, how an artist would talk about it, how an old man and a child would talk about it. That's why this is like this. Okay. I bring this up because I don't remember very much from my first read. And I would like to talk to other people about it because I don't remember very much at all. And I've heard it's quite the common criticism or complaint about this book is that it doesn't end on a climactic battle. Which is why we're going through this slowly and we're talking about this. Yeah?
Did you make a post after finishing?
I did.
Saying that
I did.
I didn't like it much or something like that?
I was confused by it. I thought it was too cerebral. And it was. And I didn't understand a few characters, including Renar and Narad. And I was like, bro, help. I don't get it. And that's why we're doing this now. Because I wanted to take it slow. So that no one falls into the same trap that I did. Hopefully. Maybe.
Okay. So, few things from this first part. So, Rise, when he walks to the basement, he goes to find this tapestry. He encounters no one. It specifically says he doesn't meet anyone. And then you have suddenly this lady showing up. It's just a thing, right? Just so that they have this dialogue of, okay, this is what is happening. Just to tell us, look, High Priestess, this is what has happened. This is Draconus. I don't think it's like, and actually the High Priestess just shows up in this dusty old room. And so that's what I think. Yeah,
I mean, on the one hand, we know that Emerald has spies throughout the Citadel, right? Despite it being her own Citadel, she has spies everywhere. So it would be fitting if she spied on Herat to see where he's going at the end. But I could also very much see this being just like, here, let me explain what happened. Let me tell you.
I mean, she has literally no business there. Does she even talk anything important? No, right?
No, basically she comes.
She says she's busy and then
she looks for him, and then Herat is too busy being self-condemning, and she just leaves because she got tired of bullshit,
Yeah. Okay, and there's a thing, that hound statue, the bronze hound, which is eating itself.
Yep.
So he purposely ignores it and then finds this tapestry.
Yep.
You want to show as simple as a man.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're too far gone. They're already destroying themselves. They're already there.
Yeah.
So what's the point of this metaphor anymore?
We covered this when Mora did the chapter in chapter 10. We went through why the sculpture scares him so much. This is why.
Yeah. So, and in this that old picture, you have scores of dragons.
Yeah.
And so far we've had only 3. So
yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't get more.
So
we can't see.
We have a grand total of 9 dragons, right?
Yeah. Now.
Presumably 8 because one of them died. Doc Dennis was killed by the Thelakai. So I'm not too sure what happened before. Why a handful more dragons would show up, scores of them, right? And how many would be enough to constitute a storm? Again, looking for mechanics as to how TM assembling works is not really relevant. It's not important. It's a metaphor. We talked about this, but I think that's another part. That's another aspect of why Draconus' plan doesn't fail here. There are simply fewer dragons, so there's less of a chaotic influence of the whole thing. Because when dragons all together would morph and hang about, it's not gonna be 3 dragons circling around above the battlefield. It's gonna be 20, and 20 is a lot for dragons. So yeah, add that to the picture.
It's multiple dragons coalesced together, and so 20 became 9. Who knows?
Maybe we got 9 TMs. Very nice.
Not TMs, but mini coalesce. So it does specifically mention that it looks like wings, whatever Draconus has around him.
Yeah.
And we have discussed that, right?
Yeah.
He's not exactly a link because he's only called Winged Darkness, and not a black dragon. So that's there.
So we talked about it last chapter, I think, right?
Probably.
And last chapter was also when when Orphantel looks into Corlat's eyes and sees that she's Elaine, right? Because of the father's ancient legacy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I think Draconus himself isn't necessarily still taking Elaine. Maybe he is, but he just doesn't do it because he's much. But he definitely has an Elaine aspect to him, which opens a whole can of worms. But we're not going to get into that now because we already have a long enough chapter as it is. Yeah.
So basically, what Draconus has done is the minute he met Mother Dark, this war is going to happen. That's it.
The moment he gave her, the moment he took her to the Sparvande, for sure.
It's like one leads to the other. He meets her.
Yeah.
He's bound to fall in love. He's bound to give her darkness.
Yeah.
He's bound to split the realm. He's bound to go to war. So, if at all, if you're thinking about what makes this time different from all the previous ones, I think the only difference would be Anomander, right? Just the presence of him.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's yeah, okay, we are agreed on that. Fine.
No, it's explicit. Very much explicit. Trace explains it.
Is it? Okay.
She goes basically we could have clashed, and if we did, with Caladan, we could have clashed, and then the dragons would have made a storm. All would have died, but someone saved the world.
Yeah.
So, to a very large extent, it's Anomander. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
No, but it's basically like Galan telling us, "Oh, are you still manning the ramparts? Anomander is useless, blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out to be that this whole thing is just in praise of him. That he's the only one who could do nothing and be fine.
Yeah, I think we talked about this with Steve when we had him on the pod. It's like Galan doesn't like Anomander, but he doesn't go out of his way to paint him as worse than he is. He doesn't make him look like more of an asshole. And he does begrudgingly, but nevertheless he does acknowledge that he does good things. And he is genuinely a good person. That's why he's pretty much a tragic hero. He's not the only tragic hero. It's not the Anomanderis that Fisher would have it. But he is a very important aspect of this story. And this is why. This is a large reason as to why. And by now, we've talked about this throughout the book, Anomander has pretty much grown into himself. He is one of the best versions of Anomander that we see. He approaches all the hounds Anomander, right?
Nearly, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway. Oh boy.
I like the quote that he made generosity a weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Which begs the question, is his love motivated by something else? And I think the answer is no. But Herat may think the answer is yes. Maybe he has some ulterior motive beyond love,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
No?
Maybe Herat thinks so.
Why would Herat think so? Don't tell that Herat thinks some extra things.
Okay.
Nobody thinks that.
Okay. He understands nothing at all. Okay.
Okay,
yeah?
The end, sorry,
Yeah, no.
just the end, where this guy is covering his eyes, and only when he's basically, they have darkness, he can still see in darkness, and just by closing his eyes, I don't know, that's the only time he can't see stuff, and then he presses it hard and he starts bleeding and stuff. Is he doing a Kadaspala here?
Oh, no, he doesn't bleed because he blows his eyes, he's bleeding because he fell. He, fell, cracked his head, stuff like that, yeah.
I hope so, but then, it's quite ambiguous, so I don't know.
No, he's fine later.
Left and right.
He's fine later.
He shows up later.
Yeah.
God. Yeah. I can't remember a single chapter. Right. Okay, then that's fine.
But no, he doesn't do a Kadaspala. That's only for my boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that we should go to the second scene.
Okay, so scene 2.
What are you calling this one?
She will see you now.
Is it all?
That's all, yeah. There's not. I try to be. Okay, that's not entirely true, but I do generally try to be at least somewhat brief.
Yeah.
So, Grisen Farl, protector of nothing, steps out of the chamber of night to inform Emerald Lanier that Mother Dark will see her now. Yay. Emerald, in dull haze, from her smoking, is confused and claims that it's a little late for that. Grisen shrugs. Even for a goddess, such things do not pass swiftly. And Emerald asks if word has come from the valley, and even though there hasn't, Grisen does confirm that Anomander has struck the standard and Draconus is gone. Not dead, gone.
Gone.
All told, it could have been worse. Mother Dark would now seek her priestess so as to ensure preparations occur for the up-and-coming wedding. Emerald concurs and invites Grisen to lead the way. A short time later, they arrive at the door. Now, she has known for some time, she has known that Draconus has been gone for some time. It's a very specific line in how vague it is, right? especially if we take Chris at his word, like this just happened. It's like, oh, she will see him now because he just struck the standard. He told her, like, but Draconus is gone is a very specific way to phrase it, and it leads me to wonder what exactly Grissom told Mother Dark after Draconus declared that he would go far enough to hear his love snap. Couple that with Draconus claiming that Mother Dark refuses his presence, and Kelaris finding Draconus reclining in a chamber of dark, well, yet not within elemental night, right? His own realm, but also the realm of his goddess. So he is not within night. He is away from Mother Dark. So he's been gone for quite some time. It's a very curious distinction. And it's one I find quite important going forward into the next book, at least insofar as Draconus' plan goes, and the last few moments of Draconus before he rides to Torrens. Like what happens between Grissom talking to Mother Dark and Kelaris going to find Draconus again to tell him, oh yeah, by the way, we're riding to Torrens. I don't know. And I think we may see next book. At least some hints. Hopefully. Maybe. I don't know. Do you have anything?
No, it's just that it's so strange that Emerald has just given up on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even the previous scene when we see her talking to Draconus asking, has my goddess woken up? Does she have any instructions for me? And now when she's being actually summoned, she's like, oh, now is she going to see her high priestess? Why? What does she want?
I think that's because of the battle, right? I think she knows that they're going to lose. With Draconus riding over there, they're going to lose. So it's fucked. It's over. They failed, so she just numbs herself, so she doesn't have to think about this. It's very sad.
She's feeling miffed, right? Look at my goddess who abandoned me, and now that we've lost, she wants to see me. What's the point? Yeah. It's understandable.
Yeah. So, shall we?
We finished the second part.
We did. Look at us go. Yeah. Shall we?
Yes.
Scene 3. What do we give up with this need to organize, categorize, summarize? I think Mora has some choice words for this
Often taken, yeah.
So, the signal flags have made their way back to Citadel, announcing the surrender of Mother Dark's defenders. Occupation is on the horizon, but the Leosan are foreigners and habit only, and soon there will be an admixture. Proc wonders at what the union between dark and light will spawn, wink, nudge, etc. Ooh, yeah. Exactly. In the meantime, he drowns his sorrows in as much as that's possible with drink, prompting Sorka to comment that he should beware the torch because his breath would ignite. Despite that, Sorka takes to smoking her pipe. Proc now admits to being drunk, but that doesn't do much to aid his heartbreak, beyond dull it mildly, but even that feeling feels false. Try saying that 5 times fast. He's certain of the signal flags for his crimes, because Proc, if you recall, Proc was a surgeon in the Kur Legions during the Falcon Wars.
Okay.
In, I forget, chapter 9 of this book. They talk about the sack of Vasatil or something, and how he witnessed many atrocities that left him very not good. Anyway.
Prone to drinking.
Yeah. And notes that the two states of victory and defeat stand now frozen in time. He has seen too many battles. One is too many for him, but he has probably seen dozens. So now, a wedding. A farcical ceremony that the two of them will mercifully be exempt from, which Proc is too drunk to even imagine properly. He finds his curiosity cold and lifeless on the matter, and Sorka adds to Proc's assertions that the wedding will be awkward, and God knows it was, with strain and a desperate striving that ultimately falls short. There's bound to be some public display, if only to ease the transition of power, but not much. Now, Sorka and Proc are the first, though they're far from the last, to posit how farcical, false, fake, and other F words I can't be bothered to conjure the wedding is bound to be. You don't need me to tell you, 26 chapters in the Hall of Light, that the manner in which the conjoining of Mother Dark and Father Light is described in the Book of the Fallen varies wildly from that of Carcanos, and why that's very much deliberate. But fuck it, I'll say it anyway. Galan really hammers this point home in this chapter, with 4 different POVs just going over how bullshit this whole thing is. And I'm very happy. Now, their attention is then brought up back to Lady Sandalath, who had departed moments before the scene to find Orphandel, and her mental trauma. Proc posits that she needs to regress to a refuge, one that he considers to be a childhood memory, though Sorka replies that her mind is not that of a child. Something has twisted her soul, possibly irreparably. Sorka asks the surgeon if he fears for the child, and Proc replies, which one?
Which one? Yeah.
Oh boy. Now,
yeah.
To a large extent, Sandalas's mental state has regressed childhood memories more than once. We even see the same thing occur at the end of the Book of the Fallen, when Sandalas seeks the safety of her locked door in the Citadel, and views everyone that approaches her atop the Throne of Dark as she did when she was a child, or a hostage, or now, right about like where her age group is right now. The question then becomes, which of the three children in question should Proc fear for? And I don't have an answer for you.
No, it's just to show us that she too is a child.
Yeah. Sorka then wonders about the death toll, the ledger, which upsets Proc and Mora. It ultimately falls to that. People and their livelihoods reduced to notes, a job for the soulless list makers and clerks to distribute payments and missives to grieve that their sons and their daughters sacrificed their lives defending whatever. Sorka makes the expert deduction that Proc dislikes her kind, to which Proc counters. To which Proc concurs. Clerks are necessary for civilization's vitality, but the impersonal nature of their work stands in contrast to his line of work and his own morals. He wonders what they give up in this need for organization, and Sorka grants him the point. Their sacrifice in this line of work is the soul's slow death. Proc steps close and takes Sorka's hand. She manages a broken smile.
Yeah, she basically says that her soul dies with the repetitive twitching of her hand, and so he takes her hand.
Yeah. So before Mora goes off on him, I would say that this is a more tonally appropriate quote, if you remember, from Pull the Hounds, a meeting between Toblakai and Shadowthrone.
Why did I not think of that?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah. No. That's between Ganos and Shadowthrone Bone Hunters. This is the acceptable one. Acceptable? What the fuck says any level is acceptable? But yeah, the same sentiment exists nonetheless. Wherein, we have clerics to divide up, acceptable levels of misery and suffering. Rise, earlier in 2 chapters ago, had raised a very similar point, wherein civilization ingrains the idea of strangers into society, as did Gothos. And we'll come back to Gothos a lot in this chapter, as we have in the past 2 chapters. That's all from me. So I leave this up to Mora. Take us away.
Okay, no. See, this thing about soulless list making, if you talk to me about criticism of a piece of art where you soullessly list out, okay, does this art do this? Does this book have this? Is this, these are all the specifications I have to appreciate a book. And if you're talking about that, then yes, I agree. That's a soulless way to approach art. But there is a place for clerks. There is a place for people who clean up after the job is done. You need somebody to sit down and figure out what does Rice tell us about the face in the mirror each time there is a defeat. And if you don't sit down and think about what exactly led to that defeat, this is what is going to happen. You're just going to keep repeating it. Why do we have history? It's only because some soulless clerk decided to sit down and write it. It was some soulless clerk who tagged that tapestry which this guy could find it, right? Regardless of whether there is a master list or not. It may be soulless, but it's important work. Someone has to do it. Someone has to tell those families that this happened. And if they are going to cry over every single soldier who has died, that's not the way anyone can live, right? You need some soulless person to put aside their soul and sit and do this. And I'm so disappointed in this lady for just agreeing to this point just because she has a crush on me. That's where I am.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I mean, you can't mix up all types of list makers. You have list makers who draw the soul out of what you like, what you do, and you have people who give up their soul because someone has to sit down and do this work. That's it.
Yeah. So a quick note, I'm an engineering major and more as a doctor, so yeah, we both are soulless list makers in this case.
No, I'm not just a doctor because right now I'm moving into admin, I'm moving into quality, so I'm much more of a list maker than I was 2 years back.
Half my job is Excel sheets, so you can imagine.
No, it's not at a conceptual level, this is what I'm doing, right? All I'm doing is
list making?
Review. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's just, when I read this first time, I didn't care, but now I literally do. I do care about this stuff. Okay, we finished 3 scenes. Amazing.
We did, yeah. We're going to even finish the 4th.
What do you call the next one?
When everything burns, come find me. I don't have very much to say here. Yeah. Sandalwood has found Orphantel, but whatever she had seen in her young son is no longer there, and what there is now seems to frighten her. The boy walks her to Corla and asks if he's meant to protect her. I think this is what I just mentioned about the Zatanai. Maybe don't. No? Yes? No? No, it was last chapter. Right?
I don't remember.
Fairly sure it was last chapter. Okay. Anyway, if it wasn't here.
Oh, no. Here it's Azathanai and God.
Yeah. So last time it was when they were approaching. Anyway, sidetracked. Sorry. Sand takes a moment in replying that due to persistent memories and a voice that seems to offer not but rebuke, a voice that she has to keep pushing against. Kind of keen to fight, maybe. Anyway, she Fade from the Book of the Fallen, one of Namander's daughter ladies, the girl that tries to murder Sandaloth, and then Whittle throws her out a window, and then she haunts Namander.
What's her name?
Fade.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Fade. Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking Fade. We're talking Phaed. Yeah.
Anyway, she informs Orphandal that no, it is the other way around, and Corland's meant to protect him, and she offers him the child, because she has to go now, to her room. She's lived in the Citadel before, after all, and revelation comes to her. Orphandal may have been unplanned. Orphandal, we learn in For the Darkness, is a shake word that translates to either unwanted or unexpected, depending on how charitable you wish to be. But she sees his purpose now. Orphantal is preternaturally aware of Corland's lineage and her accelerated growth on account of having the blood of an Azathanai. Sandalath vigorously disagrees. It's a god's blood within her, a cruel god, one who hates weakness, and one who will hurt them if they end up being weak. After making sure Orphantal understands the importance of this god, Sandalath makes for her old room, where she can unlock the door. She says, in no small part, perhaps in reference to what happened in Dragon's Keep, that when everything burns down, Orphantal ought to come find her.
Yeah. So, do things burn in the Citadel?
Not here, but we do have her order Solana to burn shit down in the Book of the Fallen, and one of the main things she keeps saying is, "Where's my son? Bring me my son," etc. So, yeah.
And at that point, her son is like actually
dead. Probably not dead. Not dead because but yeah, he's not very. He's busy basically. Yeah.
So can I bring up Mahabharata again?
Yes, please.
If Steve has not like read Mahabharata, I will be like so. I mean, I won't be disappointed. I'll be so glad that yes, look, you followed an epic without knowing. So here, this thing, it's probably like Ola's voice in her head or something, saying that you weren't good enough. He dragged out children one after the other from you. They were all failures and so on.
Mm-hmm.
That thought she has. So one of the very first stories in Mahabharata, the way it begins, the whole thing, is the guy who's listening to the story. It's the story of his ancestor, some few generations back.
Okay.
And how was this ancestor born? Is where the story begins.
Okay.
So there was a king who went to the river Ganga, and he finds a beautiful woman, and he marries her. She has one condition. All she says is that you should never question me. No matter what I do, if you question me, I will leave you. That's the condition she gives. So they get married. They have a child. She immediately goes and drowns the child in the river. He doesn't question her. Then they have another child and drowns that child in the river. So he doesn't question her. So it takes him at least till the 8th child to like actually stop her. Like, why are you doing this? It's just a newborn baby. Why are you throwing it into the river? And then she reveals herself that she is actually the goddess of the river Ganga, and she is basically giving moksha, or she's saving those kids from the cycle of rebirth because they were cursed saints or something. Okay, so there were these celestial beings who were cursed to be born on earth as mortals, and so that they don't suffer, she tries to kill them as early as possible so that they go back to being the celestial beings. But the 8th one was saved by him. I mean, she was stopped from throwing that baby. So this 8th one grows up to be Bhishma. And Bhishma is like the big patriarch of the whole epic.
Okay.
It's his brother's kids who actually have all these battles and everything. The point is that each time the child is born, he thinks that, she's like just murdering children for fun. And then she's like, she has an ulterior motive for that. I don't know, I just thought of that because that's basically what happens to sand.
Mm-hmm.
There are like multiple iterations of going through childbirth and throwing it away, and then again childbirth and again throwing it away. It just evoked that scene to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's The thing is, I heard this story as a very young child, so it doesn't feel horrific, but logically speaking, it's such a horrible story, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you probably think it's like, what a weird way to start a story.
No, we have similar stories, like with deities dressing up as like mothers and stuff and protecting babies or like helping them somehow. One of the more common ones is with like Demeter, who became like a wet nurse for some child because she loved Persephone, right? Her daughter, who is now with Hades, and it's a whole thing. She got really sad and she's like, I want to have a boy. And she basically takes him, and when his parents are away, she starts up a ritual thing where she passes him over a fire slowly to give him immortality, right? And she has to do that like a few times. And like the last time she goes to do it, her mother shows up and like, what the fuck are you doing? Because that's a very reasonable response. And she's like, oh, I'm like this goddess. How dare you stop me? And she does a whole bunch of bad shit. I don't remember exactly what she does. It's like winter stuff because she's like the goddess of the harvest and whatnot. So they don't get any harvest until like Zeus shows up and like, dude, relax. We're gonna get your kid back for a few months a year. It's gonna be fine. You don't have to worry about it. So yeah, we have quite a few stories like godly babies and the relations with gods and whatnot because a few of our deities were very promiscuous. So we have quite a few of those. Anyway, do you have anything more to add to this chapter? To this scene, rather?
Huh?
Because the next one's quite big.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
What's the next one?
The next one is Emerald and Motherdark talking about faith, so this is going to take some time. So, we are back, hello, for Scene 5.
We didn't go anywhere.
We didn't go anywhere, really, but Scene 5. And in matters of faith, Mother. So, as they walk to the Chamber of Night, Grisenfar considers the fallout of this rather sordid day. He's seen enough such sordid days to know that the fact he and many others are still breathing is a small victory, a reminder that things are going to get better, and that grief is but transitory. But such reminders did little to ease the pain of loss. Nonetheless, when considering the day's outlook, all things considered, it could have been much worse. No assassinate clashed in the valley, no storm of dragons appeared, and the casualties from magic were modest. Emerald is apprehensive in the face of meeting her goddess, and wonders if Gwyn has anything to say. He's been in her presence long enough, so surely he knows how she feels on the matter. Gwyn replies that Motherdark comprehends the necessity, there's that word again, and the inherent symbolism. What remains to be seen is how the two coexist. Now, these are not revelations, not to us anyway. Motherdark has all but told Anamander that the coming of light has been inevitable since chapter 9 of Forge of Darkness. Mora mentioned earlier, I think, that, all of this began when Draconus looked at like Motherdark funny. The necessity of Father Light's existence to answer the title of Motherdark is mentioned by Draconus in chapter 24 of this book, but it's something of an open question if Motherdark knew as well, and my assumption is that yes, she probably did. Nonetheless, Gwyn's manner of speech is riddled with weasel words and fake wording, so it's a nice puzzle to try and piece together what Emerald can't. Emerald now protests, saying that this began as a civil war. Nobody invited a war of faiths, nobody bearing the Assassini, of course, and she asks him how long the Assassini intend to manipulate the Teist. Gwyn replies that by their very nature, Assassini are drawn to emotion. For the most part, that seems to stem from their poor understanding thereof, and they have come to witness the breaking of a heart. Oof. Emerald stares, dumbfounded, before opening the door and striding in. Now, do you think that this we are poor at the finer emotions is an outright jab at Draconus?
No, I think all of them are compelled by something beyond them, all the Assassini.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have free will? Can they really stop themselves? Everyone says it's in their nature. It's in Triss's nature to come and give light. Mm-hmm. It's in Ardata's nature to keep looking for Triss. It's in Draconus' nature to keep giving. I don't know. They are considered so elemental that it's just what they do. It's just how they are. Mm-hmm. And Grizel, I don't know. Wherever there is nothing, that's where he shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, are you like?
I'm combing my beard thoughtfully.
Recording. Yeah.
No, I think to a certain extent they do have free will in the sense that they are capable of making their own decisions, regardless of how their aspect may influence things. But they are more inclined. They have more of a proclivity, I think is how Calvin put it. More of a proclivity towards mm-hmm. certain attitudes and opinions, and mm-hmm. they attend according to their nature and aspect. I think I forgot. Shit. I lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry. Someone mentions this somewhere. Someone's asking my talks about how their nature. Right. Yeah. I was gonna say the extreme of this, the extreme case, is the builders, right? Who are either bound by natural forces to the extent that they're not even sentient, or they are so bound up by their nature that they lack free will and they act only in accordance with their nature. The other thing are not quite that far, but there are more proclivities towards certain behaviors that aren't present for normal individuals, right? That's why Draconus gives so many gifts, why Cruel is more, perhaps more proclived towards giving of himself so easily, why Caldan makes statues, why Grison protects nothing, and so on. So, Mother Dark sits at the throne of dark, without any veil of darkness to hide her form. Emerald kneels, but her goddess would have none of that. Dismissing Grison, takes his leave before focusing back on the High Priestess. Mother Dark begins relating the details of the ceremony, and I think they're at least moderately worth going over. Yeah, sure.
She basically gives her a list.
Yeah.
Of what to do, of how the procedure should proceed. Oh, is this how Steve is saying that she has become soulless? That if this was an organic marriage, she would have just gone with whatever. I don't care how the chair is set. I don't care who comes.
Yeah.
Because this is an politically fixed arranged marriage, she needs to set the scene, right? So she gives this soulless list of one chair of this wood, the other chair of this wood, an empty brazier on this side, and so on. Oh, now I feel sad. I was so happy that I found, she's also a list maker, but no, this is sad.
She's a list maker, and more to the point, I want to go over this because it's riddled with symbolism that, again, underpins the fact that this is basically bullshit. So, 2 high-backed chairs in the old throne room day, one made of blackwood, with an empty blackened brazier and a scabbard for the scepter of night, one made of bonewood, with an embrasure, which is effectively an opening, or a window, carved into the throne. An embrasure is generally reserved for walls, castle walls, or the arrow slits, and windows, and stuff like that are called embrasures. The deities and the priestesses shall be the only witnesses to the ceremony. Feasting will commence for 3 days, with each noble family providing freely of its largesse. Emerald is pleasantly surprised at how events are transpiring, because she'd expected worse, and asks how soon the ceremony is to take place with Ursander at the gates. Mother Dark replies that it's supposed to take place immediately, with Anamander convening the Highborn to ensure negotiations go over smoothly. She doesn't want to know any of the details. The carcass is to be apportioned, however, and then Emerald drops the bomb. In matters of faith, before I go...
This is where she loses it.
Yeah. Before I go there, I want to take a quick moment to speak of the symbolism here. We do go back on it with Renard later, but that's going to be part 2, part 3, so might as well go here. Mother Dark's throne emanates negation and absence, whereas Fatherlight's it's radiant and resplendent, but it's ultimately hollow. It's literally empty. There's a hole in it. Everything about the ceremony, down to its finest details, protests its falsity. Its pastiche in the best of cases, outright profanity in the worst. There is nothing deep about this, nothing shallow. Renard goes over this way more if you want a more detailed explanation of why this is all bullshit. It's the second last scene. But it's important to realize that Proc talks about this, Emerald talks about this, Mother Dark talks about this, Renard talks about this, Rise talks. Everyone knows this is all horseshit. Galan doesn't hold back in telling you that, yep, no, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's just for posterity. Nobody cares. Nobody even listens. They're doing this just not even for pretense. It's not necessary whatsoever. It's just barely a formality. It's more... I am again reminded of Capello in chapter 4 when he says our faith descends into pastiche, the guffle barely held in check. They're trying not to laugh at how absurd this whole thing is. Everyone knows it's absurd, and everyone agreeing that it's absurd doesn't make it any less absurd. Okay, right. Let's keep going. As far as faith goes, she gave them an empty vessel, a blank slate, or so they thought of it, and witnessed the numerous ways in which they filled it. Whatever was hidden within, that which they could not see, that which they chose not to see, must now be considered dead. And, I think anyone can guess what exactly what they could not see is. Any guesses?
It's love.
It's love. Mother Dark does take her
to the brim with love.
Yeah. Thank you. Mother Dark does take her sweet time to get there, but what she says makes a lot more sense if you know beforehand, which you can guess that she's referring to love. So, she then wonders what the Andy wished for. A list of prohibitions and prescriptions, a set of do's and do nots? Is she to be their guiding mother from now until forever, until their dying day? What more could they need? Exact specifications of which acts earn her enmity and which would earn her gratitude? For that matter, nothing better to do than quote. Would you like to quote for me?
I could have given you a list. Is that the one?
I started from what crimes do you wish? But yeah, go from the list.
You want the whole quote?
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Are you eager for a list of prohibitions? For prescribed positions and holy ordinances? Am I to tell you the way to live your life? Am I to lock doors, draw closed shutters? Am I to guide you like children, with all the maternal needs of a mother, upon whose death you will all feed until your dying day? What words do you wish from me, Emerald Lanier? A list of all the deeds that will earn the slap of my hand, or my eternal condemnation? What crimes are acceptable in the eyes of your goddess? Whose murder is justified by your faith in me? Whose suffering shall be considered righteously earned by virtue of what you judge a falling of faith, or indeed sacrilege? Do you have anything to say there?
Can you finish?
No.
Yeah, that's all.
Describe to me the apostate, the infidel, the blasphemer, for surely such accusations come not from me, but from you, High Priestess, you and all who will follow you, in your appointed role of speaking for me, deciding for me, acting in my name, and justifying all that you would do in your worship of your goddess.
And then she drops the mic,
guidance?
and she walks away.
No,
please continue. There's way more. There's more. She just goes off.
Guidance, or the organized assembly and reification of all the prejudices you collectively hold dear.
Fucking incredible.
You would not speak to us. I grew to fear the power of words, their power and their powerlessness. No matter how profound or perceptive, no matter how deafening their truth, they are helpless to defend themselves. I could have given you a list. I could have stated in the simplest terms that this is how I want you to behave, and this must be the nature of your belief and your service and your sacrifice. But how long, I wonder, before that list twisted in interpretation? How long before deviation yielded condemnation, torture, death? She slowly leaned forward. How long before my simple rules to a proper life become a call to war, to the slaughter of unbelievers? How long, Emerald Lanier, before you begin killing in my name? And still, this dumbass, this drugged up, smoking pothead. Then what do you want of us? Lanier demanded. There's another half a page. Do you want me to?
I can quote it if you
keep
prefer.
Going?
Yeah, no worries. I can quote it if you prefer.
Yeah, please do.
You could have stopped thinking like children who need to be told what's right and what's wrong. You damn well know what's right and what's wrong. It's pretty simple, really. It's all about harm. It's about hurting. Not just physical, either. You want a statement for your faith in me? You wish me to offer you the words you claim to need, the rules by which you are to live your lives? Very well. But I should warn you, every deity worthy of worship will offer you the same prescription. Here it is, then. Don't hurt other people. In fact, don't hurt anything capable of suffering. Don't hurt the world you live in either, or its myriad creatures. If gods and goddesses are to have any purpose at all, let us be the ones you must face for the crimes of your life. Let us be the answer to every unfeeling, callous, cruel act you have committed, every hateful word you uttered, and every spiteful wound you delivered. God damn. And the dumbass goes at last. Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, if Mother Dark just stood up and smacked her on the head, I would be so satisfied.
Yeah. Before I go on, I have a few more notes from earlier.
Rule.
Yeah, no, sure. If you want to quote, keep quoting. Go ahead.
She's so frustrated. She's like, you didn't need me to tell you this. I can imagine. Poor Mother Dark.
Yeah.
No, I'm not quoting. I'm just saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier, she spoke of the powerlessness of words, right? And I find myself quoting a few all stars again and again. Guess who? Caplo wonders.
Cadaspola?
No.
Oh, Caplo, okay.
Caplo. Chapter 4 of Fall of Light. He wonders if the secret lure of holy words is their pliability. In Chapter 10, Grissom speaks of how escaping retribution and responsibility had become a game. Arisander later will speak of the same thing, how soon before my words are twisted, my premises twisted and suborned. The fact of the matter is, the dice have no answer to this, bearing what Rice Herat stumbled upon. With none to guard the virtues of a just society, each must embody those virtues of justice. Now, to close for your aid, Mother Dark is unimpressed, material wealth offers scant reward in the grand scheme of things, even if those who hoard power and wealth are more prone to causing suffering unto others lacking it. Hoarders are children that never quite grew up. Recall, too many gods and goddesses in this world, wearing obstinate, childish faces and stubborn refusal of the obvious truth that sharing is ultimately better. So is it any wonder, Mother Dark wonders, that they twist any and all faiths that preach love? So, if nothing else...
What?
If nothing else...
Love?
Yeah, love, right, I know. If nothing else, this last bit is an overt castigation and condemnation of virtually all of the highborn of Draconus for their dismissal of the Sheikh, their denial of the petition of Versander's Legion, for their obscene hoarding of wealth. Now, you may, rightly, observe that this comes too little and too late, but recall her earlier pronouncement on the powerlessness of words. Mother Dark was placed on the throne as a pawn and was elevated due to the actions of Draconus, but paradoxically, the Thais still acknowledge royalty, since the true power of the realm lies with them. This will come up again when we talk about Ursander in the next few parts, and how he's a figurehead, and how he's not the man to fix this. They are foci for... They're the fall guys. They're the foci for the wrath of the lowborn, for, in the case of Draconus, the highborn. They are the people whom will be blamed in posterity. They are the people whom we will look upon and say, well, why didn't they fix the situation? And the answer is because, well, they fucking couldn't. They inherited a mess and no one wanted to fix the mess because the status quo benefited them. And this is what you end up with. A high priestess that's like, oh, love? What? So, I don't know about you, but I could definitely palpably feel Mother Dark sigh through the page. Like just a sigh of...
Yeah, like, she leans back.
Yeah, like,
Emerald
Wreneck. Yeah. Even without naming it, allowing it to remain ineffable, still, this gift was poisoned by all who looked upon it. None of them could abide this gift of love, because they're all children. Impudent, petulant, egotistic children. Emerald names her deity presumptuous for the latter pronouncement, and asks regarding the disposition of faith in this realm. In truth, however, Father Light will prove more than just the title, and Mother Dark will see to it that Ursander is awakened to his newfound power. Beyond that, let there be justice. Yeah.
And she's like, she admires and respects Ursander already.
Yeah.
So, this is great.
So, one more thing before we close this, at least my part. Recall, if you will, Kaladin's assertion in Chapter 9. Mother Dark, Father Light. The titles are not empty, and if you think the powers behind them are but illusions, then you are a fool. And Mother Dark is no fool.
You're paraphrasing.
I'm not. No, not entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, matters of faith. I have seen, and I don't fault anyone, but I have seen in many situations, in many a thread, and many Twitter posts and whatnot, people complain about either Ursander or Mother Dark, and their inability to change things and affect change and whatnot. And this is, at least from Mother Dark, this is her response to that, is she gave them this gift. She told them, here, this is the faith, you have free leave to do what you know is right. When Endis says that all of it is filled to the brim with love, he's not being metaphorical. Obviously, okay, there's an actual vessel here, but each of them is a vessel. Each Andy is a vessel unto themselves of Mother Dark's love. And it is their responsibility, their goal, their practice of faith is to love one another. And they can't fucking do that. So, when you have someone like Hishtula has like 3 different keeps and estates, when you have people like half the captains of the Legion are highborn, when you have the Hust who are using prisoner slave labor in order to extract minerals, how do you expect someone who is a commoner to affect change on a whole realm-wide level when he has been overtly denied by the highborn? How do you expect Mother Dark, who was placed on the throne as a pawn, as a means of convenience and expediency, to do anything and have the highborn take it? They are observing the faith out of necessity, out of a measure of, expedience, because to do so is more expedient than not doing so. They cheat, right? They can proclaim and truly believe that they have faith in Mother Dark and they believe in her power and whatnot, but they don't practice what she preaches. Who does? Hishtula does, somewhat. Does everyone else? Does every other highborn bastard that abandoned Draconus on the field to die truly practice what Mother Dark preaches? No. How can she make a difference? How can she alter the fundamental fabric of Kurul Galain when she's not even the ruler of her own theocracy, kingdom, queendom?
Followers. Yeah.
Nobody can. That's why Golfhouse is so prominent in these chapters. That's why he's brought up by many different characters. He's not necessarily right in the sense that his rules are omnipresent. It's not describing rules. It's not like this will happen and then this will happen and then the civilization will fall. It's observations on the practice of civilization itself, on the institution of civilization itself, and what it entrenches and what its cultural norms are. That is what Golfhouse realizes, that this will eventually lead to what Mother Dark describes here. Maybe not immediately, and maybe that will not lead to the downfall of the civilization immediately. Maybe they won't die out because they hate like the unbelievers, but eventually that disparity will grow out and out and out, and they will eat each other. And they do. We see this later happen through endless flashbacks into the Hounds. We see the Andy and the Leo-san eat each other. All this to say, don't blame Mother Dark for this. Rosano has a much bigger share of the blame, I think. But more on that later. But Mother Dark, what more could she do? Honestly, I don't know.
So sad.
Yeah. So, unless you have anything more to add?
No? Not huge.
Okay. Yeah. We have like 10 more scenes to go, so we'll split this up here.
Oh my god.
Yeah. No, we're halfway through basically. The other scenes are quite as big. Like there's Kilars, which is big.
Okay.
And then the last two, which are pretty big, and everything else like in between is very small. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably then we can finish in part 2.
I hope so. Nonetheless, shall we close?
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure. We will see you hopefully very soon for part 2. Thank you for joining me, Maura.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks for doing such a nice job. Thank you.
And well, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Imagine me waving. Bye.